Matthew 16, 13 through 17 says, when Jesus came to the region of Caesarea Philippi, he asked his disciples, Who do people say that the Son of Man is? Well, they replied, some say John the Baptist, some say Elijah, and others say Jeremiah or one of the other prophets. And then Jesus asked them, but who do you say I am? Who do you say I am? And Simon Peter answered, you are the Messiah, the Son of the living God. The Son of the living God. And Jesus replied, you are blessed, Simon, son of John, because my Father in heaven has revealed this to you. You did not learn this from any human being. And now I say to you that you are Peter, which means rock. And upon this rock I will build my church. I will build my church. The church of God will be built. And all the powers of hell will not and shall not conquer it. I came today not so much with a teaching, but a declaration that church, we stand today and say that church that Jesus Christ spoke about, we are that church. We are that church. We are the church that God built up, and we are the church that He continues to move and live in and breathe in and build in. And aren't you thankful for that? We're thankful for the church. Amen. Amen. You may be seated today. Thank you, worship team. Awesome. Let's give a hand to our worship team. Woo! So I said bring some fire today. I think the fire was brought. It's done been brought in here. Awesome job, guys. Appreciate you guys so much. Well, Pastor Bill's away. We're so thankful that he has the opportunity to get away for some well-deserved time away with his family. So he's in Florida spending time with his family today, and we certainly miss him. Man, I missed him last night when we were carrying a skunk out from the church at midnight, but that's another story. There are things on his job description that I didn't know he did. So today, I wanted to celebrate the things that God has done through His church, this church, my church, your church, the place that I'm proud to serve in and worship in and stand alongside of you each week, the place that I'm proud to call my home. And I wanted to celebrate that today. And you know, there are a lot of good churches in our community. There are a lot of really good churches. I'm part of a ministerial alliance, and I see mighty men and women of God, that God is doing amazing and great things. And man, I'm just so thankful to live in this community. And I've got to know so many of them. But I will tell you this, without a shadow of my doubt, I have no hesitation in my voice. We have the very best church. The very best church in all this area. The very best church. And I am proud to be from this church. And I'm proud to be among you and call you my church family. But you know, it's kind of funny when you're out in the community and you might say where you go to church, or maybe you have one of the 6 Faith Fellowship shirts on, and someone, asks you where you go to church. I go to Faith Fellowship, and they say, I've heard about that church. I say, what do you mean about their church? Oh, that church is the rich church out there past Dog's Bluff, right? The rich church that says they have a campus, right? It's that rich church. And I've also heard it said, Faith Fellowship, that's that church where they have that rock show every morning. You guys have like a rock concert every morning, Sunday mornings for worship, like that church. There's a couple weeks ago, we were getting ready to leave, and there was a snake going by, and I kid you not, right across the front door. And I was thinking for a minute, man, I bet somebody thinks that got loose from our worship service. I need to take that thing inside, because you use snakes in that church, right? Like, man, I don't know what's going on top of the hill up there at Dog's Bluff, but, they say that. And then you ask, have you been? Have you been to our church? No, but I've heard. I've heard. Jesus said to his disciples, what have you heard about me? And you see the response was kind of mixed. Some said Elijah or Jeremiah or John the Baptist or one of the prophets. But then Simon Peter, the man who has many public missteps throughout the Bible, and sometimes he gets a bad rap. Simon Peter says, I know who you are, Jesus. You are the Son of the living God. You are God in the flesh. And Jesus says, Simon, you are right. And upon that rock, I am going to build my church. I'm going to build my church, and it doesn't matter who the president is and who the governor is. It doesn't matter who the mayor is. It doesn't matter what your bank account looks like. It doesn't matter what the stock market does. I will build my church, and nothing will stop me from building my church. And I want to declare today that we are that church that Jesus Christ talked about. We are that church. And since we are that church, I thought I'd talk a little about the things that make us that church, the things that have defined us through the years, and the things I believe that should define us as we continue to minister to our community. So I've got 5 points of things that I believe define us. Number one, we are creative. We are creative. It's kind of humorous to me when people sometimes act like creativity is out of bounds for the church, like it's off limits. You know, like there are certain things you can do in church and you can't do, and there's certain ways that you can sing and you can't sing, and there's certain instruments that maybe you should or you shouldn't have. But you see, my Bible tells me in Genesis 1:1, God created the heavens and the earth. He created. So if I am made in the image of Christ and I am to look like Him, then I think I should be creative. And I think our church should be a place that's creative and innovative and always doing incredible things in our community. And so I've taken a few pictures here just to kind of show some of the ways that we've been creative through the years. And so let's just take a look at those. You know, here's the Easter of 2016 where we dropped 1,500 eggs from a fire truck down there. Here's the thing about Easter eggs. Yeah, okay, so it might kind of be a stress to drop Easter eggs, but you know what? We dropped 1,500 eggs, and then we had 400 people come to church that Sunday to hear the life-giving, life-changing message of Jesus Christ. And if it means that we've got to fill candy and pass invitations around town and then drop those eggs from that fire truck, you bet we will do it every single year. If it means somebody is going to come to a saving knowledge of Jesus Christ, we will do it without shame. And when our pastor this year, so we used eggs and we broke them on our head just to create a little excitement. You know what I love about our pastor? Our pastor has the vision to know where the church is headed, and he knows the importance of reaching out to young families and young people. And you look around at so many churches, and they're hurting, and they're aging, and they're just dying off because there are no young people coming. And here we've got a mighty man of God who leads our congregation and who's willing to crack a few eggs on his head to build a little excitement for Easter Sunday at our church. And I'm thankful for somebody who's willing to do that. And if we got to crack eggs, let's crack eggs. Let's crack more eggs. We'll buy all the eggs that Walmart has if it means that people come to know Jesus Christ. Beginning of the school year, we did this thing called Mess Fest, and we made a mess out in the back. I mean, we tore it up and made it muddy and drug it all over the parking lot, and it was a mess. But you know what? We had 100 students come out that night. We got to form relationships with them, and some of those students came back and became part of our youth ministry, and some of those students that we made connections with now are now coming out to events like we hosted just Saturday night, and they come and be a part of that, and they get to hear the message of Jesus, and we believe that He's going to just invade their life and make a change in their life in a way that only He can do. And it's things like this that now allow them to come to a place like this to have interaction with Jesus Christ. We will dig and make mud and do whatever it takes to bring kids here. We will do whatever it takes. That's creative, and some people think that's out of bounds. I say bring it on. Let's bring more people to know Jesus Christ. Let's build our church. Let's bring more people here. We did this thing the past 2 years where we brought in Jubilee Gang, and it was kind of a gamble to not do Vacation Bible School anymore and bring in these lights and lasers and all these things. And so here we are this year. You're wasting all that toilet paper, all that good toilet paper. And so we play games and all these fun things. And then 100 kids walk through those front doors. And they come in here and they sing and they play games and they laugh and they get a stupid fidget spinner. But then when the response time comes, 30 kids come down here and get on their knees before Jesus Christ and make Him Lord. So if we've got to waste toilet paper and buy fidget spinners, church, let's continue to do that. I love a whatever it takes type of attitude. I love a whatever we got to do so that people can come to our church. We're not going to do anything out of bounds from the Word or that's going to be a misstep from truth. But if it means we've got to crack eggs and buy fidget spinners and waste toilet paper so somebody can come in those front doors and know Jesus Christ, let's do it every single time. Let's be that creative church. You know, we go Halloween downtown there's Pastor, I forgot about that. Pastor Bill dressed as a chicken. You know, he has all these costumes in his closet in there. And he's always dressing up and being silly and acting out characters. You know what? For somebody to let go of their pride and ego to get a few laughs from a kids and make a connection, isn't it worth it? Isn't it worth it, guys? Isn't it so worth it? And Pastor Bill, continue to dress like this. When you watch that later, man, continue to dress up and act funny and goofy and connect with those kids, because those connections are one days that will turn into responses for Jesus. We go downtown for our Halloween event every year, and we dress like superheroes and have other themes and do a lot of fun stuff. And we let this community know that there's a church out here that cares about them, that has a hope that they need, that knows a Savior that could change their life, and we will continue to do that. We will leave our church doors and have outreaches like this. We did a daddy-daughter date night, and we had so much fun. Jeff Kreitz is an ugly woman. But man, we dressed up, and we had fun, and we were goofy, and we did all this fun stuff. And then later we got out on the dance floor, and you'll see I didn't put myself in this picture, and the dads danced with their girls, and they looked so stupid, and they have no coordination or skills because they're so white. But you know what? You know what? These girls made a connection with their daddy, and they learned who their hero on this earth should be. And it connected some families, and it made a special night for these dads and daughters. And so we'll continue to draw lipsticks on dads and do all that funny stuff. And if it means that we've got to do that so that a daughter and a dad can have a special night, we will do it every year. We just finished going to Summer Scream, 5 hours in a bus. A bus that broke down on the way home. It always breaks down. Not just our bus. Every bus breaks down. Every church bus always breaks down. 5 hours. And then my wife and my friends Ryan and Amanda and many of our youth kids, we spent 10 days, 12 hours per day selling fireworks so that we could pay to go to this place, and took time away from our families and away from our jobs to be there, to sow a seed in a young person's life. And we went there, and we saw, as kids were away from their distractions from home, and they didn't have their devices and their cell phones, and now they just had an encounter with God. We saw three students that responded to calls to ministry in their life. And we saw about 4 to 5 students that were filled with the Holy Spirit. And if that means we've got to sell fireworks all day, you know what? I won't even get to that comment. Somebody made a comment about that. You know what? If we've got to sell fireworks so we can raise enough money to take our teenagers to camp, let's sell fireworks. Let's sell those fireworks, because we are going to do whatever it takes so that our students can have a life-changing week with God. Whatever it takes. And finally, our student center. You know, we've got a lot of fun. We've got a lot of fun activities out there. That's our rock wall. We've got hoverboards. We've got a pool table, Nintendo NES, Xbox. Like, what does a rock wall have to do with God? Okay, kind of a stretch. All right, but you know what? If that rock wall right there and some pictures of it on social media will mean that a kid will come in those front doors and will step in, and they'll be there when we start worshiping the name of Jesus Christ, and we will start giving a message. I want to tell you guys that we've had 3 events out there. We've drawn over 100 2 times, and last night we were about 80. And we've had all these students that come in that otherwise maybe wouldn't even go to church. They probably wouldn't step through the front doors of that church today. And then we give a message. And if you could have seen the teenagers that were in tears last night as God moved in their life, as they responded to the life-giving word. If you could have seen that, I'd say build more rock walls and buy more hoverboards and do whatever it takes so that these teenagers come here and have an encounter with Jesus Christ. And so, church, let's continue to be creative. Let's continue to be creative. And you know what somebody would say about that? Why that doesn't take all that. It doesn't take that. You don't need that. You know what I would say? Tell that to Jesus. Why did Jesus walk across the water? He could have taken a boat. It didn't take that. When the man was healed with his sight, do you think Jesus had to spit in the dirt and create mud? He could have just spoken and been healed. Our Savior, our God is creative. So church, let's continue to be creative and do whatever it takes. We'll continue to be that creative. And number 2, let's continue to be passionate. I love the passion in my church. I love the passion of our services and of our pastor. I love the passion. So let's continue to be passionate. I get so confused when I see people and you walk into church and they've got a frown and a scowl on their face. Like, there should be a joy that bubbles inside of us that can't be contained, that when people see someone that is a child of the Most High God, they see that that person is different and that person has got something that I want. Their life is different. I don't need a frown. I don't need a scowl. I don't need a cranky attitude. And I'm afraid that many times when people walk into church, that's what they get. I want to see smiles and happiness and joy in a life that's been changed by a living God. And I'm thankful we do that in this church. And if you struggle doing that, then I'm thankful God's speaking to you right now. You know, when I was a kid, and I didn't grow up in this church, so this isn't about anybody here. When I was a kid, this is no lie. So there was a guy that I would pass in the hallways. And so we'd pass side by side, and I'd be, hey, good morning, how you doing? And he would turn, I kid you not, he would crick his neck the other way and look at the wall and say, I'm fine. And as a kid, that just baffled me. That someone who could be a Christian and whose life had been changed from God would behave like that. So let's be passionate, church. Let's be passionate. This isn't in your handout. Maybe you should write it down. I think church should look more like a football game than a funeral. I think church should be more like a football game than a funeral. Let me explain. When I was a senior at the University of Missouri, our football team wasn't very good, but we still tried to be passionate about our Tigers. We weren't very good. And so we had a student section. If you showed up early, then you would be able to have a letter painted on your chest. This is a cold game. It was late fall. And so I think they were playing Colorado. And so I showed up early, took my shirt off. I'm thankful social media didn't exist then. Took my shirt off and got the letter painted on my chest. Why? Because we were passionate. We were passionate about our team. And then Mizzou got their butts kicked. But man, we were passionate. Let me say this. Let me compare a football game and how we would behave toward a football game and see if we can make a correlation to church. You see, when there's a football game, and especially if you're headed somewhere to a football game and there's a big football game coming up, first of all, we enter that day with anticipation. We start talking to our kids about it. Hey, we're going to the football game. It's going to be good. It's going to be exciting, man. This is going to be awesome. And we start posting it on social media. Man, there's a big game, and I'm headed there. I'm going to the game. You might wear or buy something new. You know, you need the latest jersey or whatever to wear. You need something nice to wear. And so you go and buy something. You might invite somebody to come with you. Hey, you've got to come to this game. It's going to be a good game, man. You've got to go to this football game. And you're telling everybody about it. And then you go there and you get there early. Oops. I thought this was supposed to be positive. You get there early because you're so excited about what's going to happen in that football game. So you get there early because you are so excited about what's going to unfold. And then the game starts and man, you are clapping and you're cheering and you're into it. It's like you are out there on the field and it's like your claps and your yells like make the guys play harder. And we have all this excitement. I'm invested, man. And when the other team scores, man, it hurts. But when my team scores, man, I'm just so excited. What if our church looked like a football game? What if we talked about our kids every morning, Sunday morning? Guys, we are going to church today. And something amazing is going to happen in your life today. And what if we started posting on social media? Guys, I'm going to Faith Fellowship today. Come with me. What if we text somebody and said, would you come to church with me? It's going to be so good. And what if we walked in here and we came here early and the place was full early because we were filled with so anticipation of what God was going to do that day. And then when the music started, we were singing and we were clapping and some of us started dancing and we got so excited and we were screaming and yelling because we were passionate about God. You see, if God has done something special in your life, which I believe He has, there should be a passion that just permeates out of your life. You see, I know a God who has changed my life, who has turned things around, who's made things new, who's restored things in my life. And when I think about what He's done for me, all that He's done and He continues to do, there is a joy and a passion that permeates out of my life. And I hope the same could be said from you. So church, let's continue to be passionate. Praise team, man, keep bringing it. Keep bringing the music. Let's bring it. I want to see Josh banging on those drums, break a few sticks. I want to see Ryan and Logan, man. I want you guys to shred on those guitars. All right? Let's just be loud. They want to talk about a rock concert at Faith Fellowship. All right, we'll do it. We'll get loud. Man, Brad, crank that music up and let's get loud because there should be a passion in my heart that nothing can contain because of who my God is. There should be a passion that comes from me. So church, let's keep being passionate. And you all that are serving week after week, man, continue to serve with passion. Continue to meet the needs of those little ones. Let the passion of your lives now pour into the passion of their lives as they develop. Keep showing up. Keep serving. Keep being committed to what you're doing. Man, it's working. It's good. Church, let's be passionate. Let's be passionate. Number 3, we are committed. We are committed. You know, when Jesus was on this earth, Jesus was about his Father's business. Whatever the Father wanted done, he did it. Whatever the Father said, he did it. Whatever the Father's wishes were, those were what he did, even to the point of death on the cross. He was about the Father's business. And church, I love to say that we are about our Father's business. We are about our Father's business, reaching the lost, changing lives, pouring into people, loving on people, caring for people. Let's continue to be committed. I love that we're a church that would see the need of reaching a young person in life, that we would devote so much to our kids' ministries and pour so much into making sure that families had a place where their kids could be ministered to. I love that we're a church that would invest financially to build a building like we have over here with our students. You know, it's so amazing, just at the point where I kind of get used to going up and over there and showing up every week. Somebody like my aunts come from Sykeston last night, and they come look around the place, and they start snapping pictures because they're so amazed at the place and how incredible it is to see all these teenagers come be a part of that. I love that our church cares enough about young people to do something like that. I love that we are a church that cares enough about broken and hurting people that we start a CR ministry that meets every Sunday nights. And I want to tell you guys that those people, those leaders, many times when they first got started, now we see the fruit of it now. Many times when they started, they were the only ones there. But they were committed to it. And you know where they were not only committed to the ministry, they were committed to the lives that they knew were coming one day. That the people they knew God would bring to them one day. And they were committed to it. And because of their commitment, now all that fruit has come forward. Committed. So let's continue to be a committed church. Let's continue when there's an event in our community like Carry the Cross or the Prayer Zone that'll come up in April. Let's continue to have the most people there. Let's be the church that has the most people there, that leads the way in our community. Let's be that church. Let's continue to be a church that when Halloween comes around, we're going downtown and we're spending money on candy and we're buying inflatables. And we're playing games, and we're ministering to families, and we're loving on them, and we're caring on them. Let's continue to be that church. Let's continue to be that church that lines the football field every Friday night, that goes out there and takes something off the shoulders of our coaching staff so we can be a help. And guys, let's continue to be that church that makes those stupid diamonds in the end zone. They're a pain, but man, they look so good. But man, let's put them in there, and let's look good because we do things with excellence. And so let's be committed to that. And let's continue to pick up that football stadium every Friday night, even when it's raining. A stinky, dirty job. But we're going to love on our community, and we're going to love on the people in it. Let's continue to be committed. And church, I want to tell you today, before we can ever be committed as a church, collectively as a church, we've got to be committed individually. I've got to be committed, sold out individually. Jesus spoke directly to this when he was talking in Luke 9:23. He says to the crowd, "If any of you wants to be my follower, you must give up your own way and take up your cross daily and follow me." I love how it says that you must give up your own way. We have wants and desires and needs that we would love to accomplish. But you see, just like Jesus was about his Father's business, you and I have a calling and a duty to be about the Father's business here on earth. And before we can do any amazing things as a church, we've got to all make sure that we are living that. We are living out Luke 9:23. So let's be committed. I want to encourage you today to keep showing up, to keep coming, to keep expecting, to be faithful in doing what you've got to do so that God can then show his faithfulness. So that God can show his faithfulness. Once won't cut it. This isn't in your handout either, but I think it would be worth writing down. There is a process that leads to God's promise. There's a process that leads to God's promise, and that process includes you. It includes your obedience. It includes your faithfulness and commitment. It includes you. And see, there is a promise, and there is a good God with a good plan that is going to give you that promise. But now there's a process that I've got to walk out here on earth. And we are faithful to the promise, or to the process. God is faithful to the promise. If you'll be faithful to the promise and keep showing up and keep believing and keep serving and keep volunteering and keep bringing your kids and keep praying and keep worshiping, if you'll keep on, the promise is coming. And it's a promise from God. It's not my promise, it's His. Be committed. And when you're committed in your faith, now we can collectively be committed as a church and do amazing things in our community. Be committed. And number 4, we are making an impact. God is making an impact through our church. I thought it'd be pretty appropriate, since I have 5 points today, that I share 5 testimonies. Real people, real encounters with God, and real lives changed right here in our church. The first one says, from one of our teenagers, it says, youth group has had a huge impact on my life and my faith. Not only has it shown me that God will always love me unconditionally, no matter how bad I screw up, but it's also shown me how to live my life through God. I don't know where I would be without this group in my life. Another says, life is busy. And like other families in this stage of life, we never seem to have enough hours in the day. But coming to Faith Fellowship is one of the best things we do with our time. God is the most important thing to us, so we set aside time to honor Him. But we get so much more in return. I get to sit next to my husband twice a week. It's like a mini date. My kids get to have fun in a safe place. We get to smile and laugh, and with others who are like-minded and want to please and honor God. And my family is closer because we go to our church together. We are that church. We are that church. My kids were invited to Jubilee Gang, and I didn't want to go. I didn't want them to go. I didn't. And my husband didn't. The church we were currently in didn't do things like that for kids. It was viewed as worldly fluff. I allowed my kids to go and sat in a pew behind them, making sure that they were going to be okay in this place. And it wasn't too long after sitting there, I had tears down my own face. My kids weren't just sitting there quiet and calm like they were supposed to be. They were jumping and screaming and having fun while worshiping. Who knew that worship could be fun? I mean that. And then be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind started being rapped in church. And after hearing it for the 33rd time, I realized God was transforming my heart. Amen. But first He needed my mind. It took several months later, but we are now sitting in the congregation, allowing our minds to be renewed and transformed. Amen. We are that church. I was raised in a church where church was all about religion. When I came to Faith Fellowship, I immediately noticed a difference. The focus was on relationship rather than religion. It was because of this teaching that I finally felt like I had a personal relationship with Jesus, although I had faithfully gone to church my entire life. This was the piece that I had been missing. I am thankful for a church that continually encourages and helps grow that relationship. I'm proud to say that God is doing these types of things in our church, amongst us and through you. When I walked through the doors of Faith Fellowship, I wasn't just visiting. I was in need. In need of so many things, not just in my life, but in my kids' lives. I was a single mom who was physically and emotionally destroyed by traumatic events in her lives. The Sunday morning I walked in, this mom returned her heart back to her first love, back to our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. And then as a family, my kids and I began attending every church service we could. Every time those doors opened, we wanted in. If there was an event, we volunteered. We started going to Celebrate Recovery on Sunday night, where I've been healed of all those hurts, those habits and hang-ups. Wednesday nights, while I attend service, my teen attends Launch, where she's recently been restored from those severe hurts, been able to forgive, and has now been called into ministry. My younger child attends Super Kids, where he has also been recently set free from those severe hurts. PTSD, anxiety, fear, and unforgiveness, and given amazing love for God. And the little one who attends the nursery, where he loves to tell us about Jesus. I thank God always for my huge family at Faith Fellowship. God says, you know, they are my people because of the love that they show. Church family, I want to tell you that God is doing amazing things in and through you and amongst you. And I will remind you of who we are called to be as children of the Most High. 2 Corinthians 5:20. So we are Christ ambassadors, and God is making his appeal through us.
Amen.
God is doing amazing things through you, church. And that's why it matters that we're committed. And that's why it matters that we're passionate. And that's why it matters that we keep showing up, because God is doing amazing things. And if you have not taken that step to be part of this church family, I want to tell you today, this is a place that you belong. This is a place where you will be loved and cared for and concerned for, where your children will be ministered to, where you will be taken care of, and where you can raise a God-fearing and God-loving family. And you belong in a place like this. You are loved. There's a God who loves you, and there's a church family who loves you, would love to be part of your life. You belong in this church. And point number 5, last point. We are expectant. Church, I believe that the very, very, very best days are yet to come. The best days for our church, the best days for our family, the best days for your individual life, the best days are yet to come, because I serve a God who is faithful to the very end. And until the day of Jesus Christ coming, he will be faithful, and he will provide, and he will make a way, and he will restore, and he will do all that he has said that he's going to do in our very midst. We will see him continue to move in our church, because we are that church. That church he said he would build on that rock, and the gates of hell would not come against it. We are that church. So if you can believe today and expect that the very best days for Faith Fellowship and our families and our church still lie ahead, would you stand to your feet right now and let's proclaim that with this song.